Hello, everyone. Welcome to TAtech's exclusive roundtables on topics related to trending issues in talent acquisition. Today's show is all about just what is the state of the art in recruitment marketing. My name is Peter Weddle, and I'd like to welcome you to the show. According to one source, recruitment marketing has been around at least 15 years. It's been a period of obviously continuous development, conceptual evolution. So I think it's appropriate at this point in time to sort of take a step back and ask ourselves just what is the state of the art in recruitment marketing. And to that end, I've asked four of the smartest people in our field to join me for today's show. So please welcome Chris Satterley, Eric Hallwell, Michael Ang, and Sarah Elkins to the virtual stage. Welcome all.
Hey, Peter.
So I'd like each of you, if you would please, to introduce yourself to the audience and talk a little bit about yourself and your company. Chris, let's start with you.
Hey everybody, great to be here. I'm the Vice President of Performance Marketing at Recruitix. We're a data-powered recruitment marketing agency, and really our main goal is to make it easy to attract and hire really great talent. We've got 400 customers we're doing that for now, and there's two prongs to it. We've got our award-winning technology stack, and we've got 275 really smart people that I'm fortunate to work with. So happy to be here today and excited for the conversation.
Great, thank you for being here. Michael, how about you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Ang. I'm CEO of Job Elephant. Job Elephant is a recruitment advertising agency based in California, but now working nationwide in the U.S. We specialize in working with mostly public sector employers, which presents its own unique challenges. And yeah, I've been in the space for over 20 years.
Sarah, please.
Hello, happy Wednesday. Really excited to be here. I am Sarah Elkins. I'm VP of Digital at Shaker Recruitment Marketing. We're a full service recruitment marketing agency that's been in business for 73 plus years. We're experts in recruitment marketing and provide an unbiased approach for solutions for our clients. We do everything from DE&I, brand, culture, programmatic media, career websites, which is all kind of founded in data and analytics. So really excited to be here.
Thank you as well. Eric.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric Hallwell. Been in recruitment marketing since 2006. A lot of that time was with Baird, also worked with KRT, acquired by Recruitix, and then Baird, obviously, most recently acquired by Appcast. So I am now working for Appcast, and Appcast is a leading programmatic technology platform, and now a full service agency that helps with talent attraction strategies across the board.
So as everyone out there can see, we have an audience with a lot of wisdom and expertise to share. So we're going to jump right in. You don't have to spend much time on LinkedIn or X or Facebook and without seeing a lot of commentary about recruitment marketing these days. But it seems to me that oftentimes the press of just filling recs day in, day out, tending to the need for positions to be filled, overwhelms the commitment to recruitment marketing, except perhaps in the largest firms where you have dedicated resources. So let's begin by talking about how much commitment you think there is today on the part of employers, both in terms of staffing and in terms of budgeting and in terms of priority to recruitment marketing. What do you think? Is it something that is a nice to have, or is it something that organizations now see as critical to their successful talent acquisition? Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in. I think it's truly critical where we're at. I think our clients are even more committed now because of the pressure of trying to find the right person at the right time with the right message in order to convert them. I think we're all, and I think this has been a theme for years, is trying to do more with less. Like, how many times have we heard that? So now I think our clients are taking just a deeper look at how they're approaching this and potentially rethinking their approach. I think just to kind of kick us off.
Okay. Eric, what do you think?
I mean, with all the customers that we work with, the companies that we help with talent attraction, for them, all of them find it very critical. So even, I would say, I mean, recruitment marketing is at the forefront of any talent attraction strategy, because, you know, you can, even with the biggest brands and well-known brands in the world, you can post a job and probably get some organic traffic. However, 30, 40, 50% of your traffic will be organic, and the other 50% is going to there are going to be some real thoughtful efforts to attract the right kind of candidates. And then you have to figure out which channels would be best, depending on if you're hiring for high volume software engineers, salespeople, truck drivers, whatever it might be. You're going to have to really be thoughtful in where those investments go in order to attract the people that are either casually looking or they're actively looking, but it's a very competitive marketplace and you're seeing jobs for a number of companies. You have to be able to stand out, you have to be in the right channels, and you have to be able to provide a good user experience for candidates to come in. So the recruitment marketing sector is more prime than ever. There are more options out there. I think I've enjoyed this career for, you know, the last 16 years or so, because it's a very complex marketplace, and we get a front row seat to kind of choose and select where those investments would go to help companies attract talent. So it's a big piece now. As tech has grown, it's massive.
Michael, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll dovetail off of what Sarah and Eric just had said, but I think that, to your point, I think it's the market conditions are driving this, so that recruitment, marketing is finally getting some love, and it's just because we're all trying to differentiate, so it's a buyer's market. I think most employers understand that the job seekers have leverage right now, and therefore they need to differentiate in the market in order to stand out amongst the competition.
What do you, Chris, think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Our clients, ever since the pandemic, have suddenly started to take employer branding and actually putting money behind employer branding a lot more seriously. Like, the conversations I had 8 or 9 years ago with clients was more about introducing them to recruitment marketing to begin with, and candidate acquisition. There's this whole untapped pool. You've never used programmatic to access it before. That's still all really important, but to Mike's point, there's not the same pool that there was 5-6 years ago. So now you have to differentiate yourself, and putting money behind that instead of just the consumer-facing brand has become a lot more important.
I think Mike used a word, though, the differentiation, and I think that's the critical piece. And then kind of pulling in with what Chris said, during the pandemic, we saw those clients and those brands that didn't completely stop all their advertising and they continued with their brand. Those are the ones that really kind of kept moving. So I think there's a massive highlight on kind of that brand and your culture and what are you offering and that EVP push, because I think Eric said, like, in the space, like, we're getting all these candidates, right? Technology has helped move and kind of opened the floodgates and made it super easy. But I mean, if you cover up that logo, right, you cover up that brand, what is the value prop of me coming to work for you versus the next person? And I think now employers are really looking at that and trying to say, okay, why do people want to come work for me?
So I think we're all agreed that there's much more commitment to recruitment marketing these days, because there has to be. That's just the nature of the marketplace. Candidates are calling the shots in many cases. So let's dive down a little further. What are the hallmarks of a good recruitment marketing program? And let's start with enterprise employers, the large organizations that may have more resources. What are the hallmarks of a good program there? What do you think? Now, there's nobody shy in this group, so leap right in here.
Okay, I'll take a stab at this. So I think I will just start with fundamentals in terms of marketing fundamentals of setting goals and what is that goal that you're trying to achieve, and then figuring out what are all the incremental steps to getting to those goals. There's the goal, the mini goals to the goal. So if the end goal is filling requisitions, things like that, coming up with what are all the other touch points. And I think points are the key there because those are the things that you can quantify, measure, utilizing, analytics tools, things like that. But if you don't define all those things, you don't have the setup, the fundamentals of how are we going to track this. You can throw money at a problem, but then what is the outcome? How do you measure ROI?
Sarah?
Agreed. I mean, I think the other big piece, obviously, right, talking to people and establishing those goals and those KPIs first and foremost, which sometimes takes a little bit of time to try to get that finalized. But I think content is just massive. And for those of us who've been in the space, right, it's nothing new. That's not like a big light bulb moment. Like I've never heard content before. However, I think the combination of content with AI, right? Because that's the other big buzzword that keeps falling a lot. What are you feeding the machine? What are you creating? Because that is just going to kind of kick back out based on your prompts, the information that's there. If you don't have any information in your digital ecosystem of who and what you are and why and your brand and on your social platforms, it's not going to be able to ingest and kick anything back out. So I feel like AI has put a massive bright light on content.
It seems to me that there's been a shift in the way employers look at content. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's a greater commitment to transparency, that they're more willing to admit the warts as well as the good stuff so that they come across with a brand that's authentic. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with authenticity. I think that's the key. And I think, you start mixing in AI and AI driven or created content. I think that's going to fall on its face if it's not authentic. So that's what I believe job seekers want, is that authenticity to see into that next employer or their next role.
I just saw it was a post online recently, and it was a gigantic billboard that looked like an MS Paint screen, and it said now hiring for a graphic designer. And I thought man, that's a great example of, to me, that's the employee value proposition as opposed to the employer brand. You're being pretty honest with someone that they're going to come in from the ground up as a graphic designer. There's not a system in place. And
I love that ad. That's awesome.
Right? It's amazing. Yeah. It tells you right up front, you're going to kind of decide as the employee, do I really want to work there or not? And some people really do. Right. And that's where you have to make it clear for those people what you're offering.
Agreed. I think that's why all the video is so popular, right? That's why YouTube and TikTok, and I've lost half my life to TikTok right at night, going through and kind of scrolling. People want to see what's real and what's authentic. And the more our these enterprise clients, our clients can really show what is it really like, because I think that's where kind of the retention piece really falls in. We can get people in the door, we can kind of get them in and hire. But if they're only staying 30, 60 days, if they're turning around, you're kind of spinning that money over and over again. So why do I really want to stay? And being able to kind of show the real, we all want to see as humans, right? What's the real thing behind the curtain?
Mm-hmm.
So is there any difference? Obviously there are constraints for SMBs just in terms of financial capabilities. But you know what? If you're talking to a small or mid-sized business, the principles are the same. But how do they have to tailor their approach to recruitment marketing in order to be effective?
I'll go first here on this one. I was thinking for SMB, like one way to get ahead of and compete with big companies with big budgets is going to be probably actually fall into a little bit of process. I think SMBs have an opportunity to be quicker and better at engaging talent that find their jobs. So one, you obviously have to have like a pretty, you have to have a decent enough recruitment marketing program to attract people to apply for your jobs, but you also have to have the ability to respond to those candidates within 24 hours. A lot of times in hiring good talent, speed is going to win. And so recruitment marketing is not just the ad that is being posted on a job board or on Google or on a social media site. It is going to be how you respond to that candidate as they apply, because they've raised a hand and they've said, I'm interested. And so you want to be able to engage that candidate as quickly as possible and give them a delightful user experience from the very get-go. So one way SMB needs to be competitive is going to be the process part of recruitment marketing.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I'll just, Eric's touching on process is, I think process in general for the recruitment cycle in total is messed up. I see it every day. The process that, you can have all these great ideas in isolation, and then the execution stinks. And it's it gets stuck with one bottleneck after another, and you have all these different things that don't create that seamless process from the perspective of the job seeker, and it's generally not very pleasant for the recruiter either. So just a note on process is important.
Agree. And I think those SMBs, they can be a little bit potentially more creative and kind of scrappy with some of that process, because they don't have 13 different business units to go to. They don't have a massive legal system to go through, so they can do that. But I think that's what makes them unique. But it still fundamentally comes back to the selling of their brand and their culture and what makes them unique and different. Because the type of persona or person who's going to come to work for an SMB and that value prop that offers versus somebody working at a global company is going to be completely different. So, and you may not want those people who want to work at a large global versus that. So I think it's coming back to, I feel like these are a lot of these topics that we've been saying for 20 years, right, in our space, is going back to the basics and figuring out like what makes you shine, what makes that candidate want to come and stay at your company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to look a little closer at that. I think that's an important point. I mean, given the problems that many companies are having with attrition, retention lands at the top or very close to the top of most CEO surveys these days. So the idea, I think, Sarah, it was you who mentioned that your recruitment marketing is not only for the external audience, but it's also for the internal audience. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
I think it's come up more often in conversations that I've been having with clients where, even 5 years ago, retention wasn't an issue. I think we saw a lot of money getting poured into the market in 2022. There's still people who need to hire, even though, there's been some layoffs. But it's what are you doing to constantly revalidate why I'm here? Why do I work here? And I think that's such a critical, because it factors into the culture of why people stay. And that's not, I don't want to use the term easy, but you're not funding money into that. That could be very, very simple things with managers or leaders or directors having conversations and checking in with their employees to re-emphasize the culture and the value of why they're staying. But retention, I think, has all of a sudden come up more often over the last probably 6 months.
I would say that,
go ahead, please.
well, it's an important, this is an important topic because when you think of recruitment marketing, a lot of times it's about storytelling. And if you're a big company, you could play, well, if you're a smaller company, you could play against like working for a big company. Working for a big company, while it's not always going to be true, but it is like you could start to market yourself as a company where you get a chance to have a say, you get a chance to grow as an employer, you get a chance to be part of, the term family is not something I like, but you're going to have probably a culture with less red tape, with more decision-making power and more opportunity to make a difference versus where you might just be a number at a bigger company. Now, a bigger company would disagree and say, like, you're not just a number, you're here to make a difference as well. But in an SMB world, that storytelling can go a long way to help attract candidates that want to be part of an organization where they really can go in and create change, do it quickly, not get caught up in bureaucracy, and make that difference month over month. So that would be an important part of that storytelling to attract the right kind of candidates.
That once you get that conversation going, it's really infectious too. And it's free when your employees are talking about you as an employer, even if it's out on Facebook. It doesn't have to be, a Glassdoor company profile. It can be as something as I posted on Facebook or I talk to my friends. Like I still talk about the ice cream shop I worked at 20 years ago. They employ teenagers and they employ adults, and they don't really have money to spend on recruitment advertising in the traditional sense, but the man who owns the store puts a lot of effort into making sure that the people who work there talk a lot about it, and he's got a really strong presence in the town. So he's actually a really well-known, popular employer, and it's all because of those years of kind of engaging with employees and finding out, like, well, what is it you like about working here? Can you go talk about it for me? Like, usually people want to if you give them the chance.
I've got to get your take on a unique challenge that's just come to the fore. After spending the last 6 or 8 months shedding literally tens of thousands of employees, all of a sudden high-tech companies like Alphabet and Meta want to hire some of those exact same people back. So they have a pretty interesting branding problem, it would seem to me. If you were counseling, and if they're one of your customers, I apologize, but if you were counseling them, what would you say? I mean, how do you tell a story when the story that's on everybody's frontal lobe is not a happy one?
The company end or from the candidate end?
Yeah, well, I would say that those companies have a branding problem right now, and also an EVP problem. So, how do you correct something? All companies, if not make mistakes, certainly have a change in direction. So you've got to kind of go back and recover. How do you do something like that when your brand may have taken a beating with prospective candidates?
I think Mike may have said it earlier about being transparent and authentic. We're like, everybody's in business. We're all human. People are going to make mistakes. I think as much as they can, addressing kind of that elephant in the room, and what can they say that why is now a good time, because it's going back to, again, the brand and their EVP, and so why would I come back? I think that's going to be the hard piece, and that's what the market's going to want to hear is, why did this happen? Why would I want to come work for you now? How is this not going to happen again, right?
Exactly.
Nobody wants to come aboard and then 3 weeks later be in the same position.
Yeah, I think you would I would want to tell those companies to talk about what's changed, so that it's not going to be going back to the same desk at the same, doing the exact same thing as before, but now we want you back, perhaps in a different role, in a different department, move things around, etc. But the message would be, it's not coming back to do the exact same thing.
That different role, different department point is really critical. When a lot of these layoffs started happening, we certainly had clients that were going through it, but continuing to hire. And it was always for, maybe the same department, but a different team, especially for some of those IT roles that were lost. And I also had friends that were working in some of these larger tech companies that were telling me, oh yeah, actually, my team is totally fine. And I think that, back to Sarah's point about being honest about the business decisions that are being made, it's really important to say, hey, we went really hard in this one direction because it seemed like that was the right thing to do, and it turned out not to be the case. We're still making a lot of headwinds in these other areas, and we need your talent there. So instead of kind of thinking of the company as the single conglomerate that does or doesn't hire, kind of focus on the opportunities that are available on each specific team.
So let's talk a little bit. We touched on it earlier, but let's talk a little bit more about the role of technology. Obviously become a lot more important in the last 10 to 11 years. And as you all have mentioned, we now have large language models like ChatGPT playing a role. How does technology fit into a recruitment marketing strategy?
Well, I'll just also chime in with, there's been a lot of developments just in terms of the ability to have a video recorder in your hand in the last 10 years, to be able to take video from a phone anywhere, post that on free platforms like YouTube or TikTok or any of these others that have video. To me, that's massive shift. I mean, that's the difference between, faxes and emails back in the day.
Absolutely. Although you can easily post it on social media, it's a little bit harder trying to get it onto the corporate career site, given that those are often still controlled by the IT department. But what else? The ChatGPT is the technology du jour. So how about that?
I will say that if you look at the investments that are being made in technology, it's all on AI, and more specifically, large language models. And you're looking at like ChatGPTs of the world. Microsoft throwing $1 billion at them, but that's only one. There are several others that have been massively invested in, billions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of millions anyway. And the NASDAQ this year, if anybody follows the stock market, the NASDAQ had a record year this year. So while we're talking about kind of a slow year for growth and like difficult times with companies laying off people, and also maybe budget shrinking in the recruitment marketing space to be cautious of what they're spending, the NASDAQ literally grew 39% in the first half of 2023. And on the backbone of that growth, the reason why that growth happened was because of the investments into AI. And the stock market is not necessarily a snapshot of what's happening now, but it's really a snapshot of what we are seeing in the future. And what we're seeing in the future are massive investments into AI. And the investments are coming from Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, NVIDIA. All of these companies want a big piece of this, and that's what's driving the rise in stocks and excitement in the stock market. In the recruiting world, I think a lot of it is TBD, although we're seeing some incredible benefits right now. Everybody here on this call is working for companies that are working on their own technology enablers to make their business better. At Appcast, over the last couple of years, we've created technology that helps optimize job board channel buys, so basically pay-per-click advertising into the job board channel that optimizes down to the hire. So taking down funnel signals and being able to automatically shift budgets around to job sites that are producing hires, which is a big shift from what we used to do. It used to be you would optimize budgets off of cost per click. Then we moved over to cost per apply. And now we're literally optimizing on cost per hire. So just in the last 5 years, we have been able to go further down funnel, and that is made possible by the enhancements in technology.
I think, if we look at technology and in the recruitment marketing space, and specifically with GPT chat, I think what I find interesting is GPT chat to me is the social media. It's the Facebook, what it was like back 10, 15 years ago, right? It came onto the market. There were early adopters. The legal team, right, started to panic. Different laws started happening, and we're still kind of in this growing and learning phase with this. Technology, and one of the reasons that I'm still in this space is because recruitment marketing, it moves really, really fast. And what I love that we have the ability to do is we get to be unbiased in the space and try to determine, and even how much I love technology, we want to make sure that you're applying technology properly based on your goals and objectives, because even how much we love technology, it's not necessarily going to fix everything. And as we talk with clients and look at their HR tech stack, and they have purchased all of this, and you try to get down to kind of that fundamental level of back to what are you trying to accomplish, and what are you trying to fix, and what is the problem, and then taking a really methodical approach of applying it. AI, as we've mentioned on the call, right? It's the big buzzword, but it's not new, right? It's been around for a really, really long time. And how we're going to use it, I think, is going to keep evolving as we learn and listen more and kind of apply and learn and more, and all the technology. But it's interesting to me because our market, everybody has an AI tool, right? Everybody's using AI. You can't get away from that word in any conversation right now.
Yeah, a lot of old fears of AI taking human jobs coming back up, which every time you hear AI, you immediately hear, how is it going to replace humans? And there's, I don't think we're anywhere near that point yet with these generative AI language models. They're really good at finding patterns though. So one thing that we're starting to do at Recruitix is apply AI to media planning. So take a big data set that would normally take a strategist hours to comb through to figure out what's going on in Colorado versus Delaware for this one particular job. To have the language model spit some information back at you, you still need a human to kind of put their stamp on it and make sense of it. And I think the same is true in the TA recruitment teams at a lot of our clients. Recruiters do a lot more than just recruit. They're usually filling all the gaps that are lacking in the TA process or in the recruitment marketing funnel. So if you can take things like answering basic questions a candidate has via a chat bot and get it off of the recruiter's plate, they can focus a little bit more of their energy on the human interactions, which really should be the primary focus. They're the face of the company. You want them to be human with the candidate, and let the technology make a little give you some shortcuts in some of the other areas where you can.
Yeah, I'd like to just add another caution, and that is around content generation. I mean, obviously, content marketing is a big play, and I've begun to see some commentary around ChatGPT being an aid to recruiters there, and that's fine. But the way large language models learn is they look at what we humans have done in the past. They look at all the data, the phrases, the images that have been used in the past. If you think your recruitment marketing was perfect in the past, then that's not a problem. But if you think that there might be some shortcomings with what you've done in the past, or what has been done generally in the past, then obviously you want to have human moderation of any ChatGPT created content, so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past. We're already a little bit over, but we have had a question from our audience, so I want to just give you all a chance to weigh in on it. The question is, what is the importance of engaging job seekers pre-apply? Do you see that being a focus on their strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of touched on it a lot. It's about the brand, right? So before they apply, it's about, and I like to relate it a lot of times to the consumer buying experience. We're talking about the job buying experience. I often joke, right, like the Amazon effect of going out and the shoes that end up following me all over. It's how are we impacting the candidate with getting that brand out in front and that storytelling aspect, all the things that we've mentioned, that value prop, and getting in front of them so that when they do apply, because in a perfect world, right, you get the right message in front of the right candidate, you convert them and you retain them, and then they're there for, until they retire. So there has to be, what is that approach up front, pre-apply, so you are getting that right candidate, because then that's going to affect that retention that we've been speaking about.
Yeah, I always recommend that you give people a different way other than an apply to. Like, if you've got good content and they're already engaging with it, let them raise their hand in a very simple way, especially if you're talking about high volume hiring for a role that's a fairly low barrier to entry. Let them give you some lead information, and then you can either implement technology via a CRM to work those leads into a true apply or get them in front of a recruiter. Or we have plenty of clients that just have teams of recruiters during high volume situations dedicated to fielding leads, and it could be phone calls, it could be emails. So remove the barrier to entry once they've got that engagement with your brand, because you might not want them to apply, especially depending on your ATS limitations.
I see a pre-apply. You could almost like answer this in two different ways. One would be for active candidates and one would be for passive candidates. For active candidates who are on a job site looking for a job, their point of contact before they apply could just be the job posting. And so we always talk about good, healthy job postings to help. That might be the only touch point they have with your brand. So you need a good value prop in your job posting and to showcase what the job entails, obviously qualifications and whatnot, but you're selling on a job description, so it needs to sell. For passive candidates, a lot different. There are many more touch points that you're going to have in engaging a candidate audience, because if you're advertising through Google or through social media, typically you're not advertising a job, you're advertising a career opportunity. And the call to action a lot of times is learn more or search for an open job. So you're not clicking to apply for a job, but you are clicking to an area that would give you more context about what your company offers for employment. And that's where you really get into your EVP, you get into videos, you get into testimonials, you get into a lot of content that is going to get somebody interested and excited to apply for your job so that they will eventually apply. They might not apply today, but you're building up that relationship with a group of candidates that are casually looking for another opportunity. And that is different than an active job seeker where it could just be the job posting.
Let me just add one other thought to that with regard to job postings for active candidates. I often see the phrase, and maybe it's just shorthand in some cases, but I think in many cases it's reality, that they are posting a position description. I'm an old partner from the Hay Group. Position descriptions were created to measure jobs so that they could be lined up for pay issues. They had nothing to do with recruitment. I mean, for heaven's sakes, requirements and responsibilities are words only a lawyer could love. So the point is, if you're going to write a job posting that might even have an impact on a passive person, it has to be like consumer content. It has to grab you in an important way. And I would argue, given attention spans these days, it has to be front loaded, because they aren't going to read down 6 paragraphs of pithy content to get to your EVP. So you gotta hit them early and hit them hard if you want to come back to a word that we used at the very outset of this session, if you want to differentiate your organization from others. Okay, so listen, I'm sorry I kept you longer than I had originally promised, but it was a fascinating discussion. I'd like to go around the virtual table here one last time and give you a chance to tell folks if they want to follow up with you and learn more about your companies, how they can connect with you. So Chris, start with you. What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Yeah, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I've got a nice, easy email address, chris@recruitix.com. You can also just learn more about Recruitix in general if you go to recruitix.com as well.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yes, there's got to be more than one Chris at Recruitix by now. So, but I promise I'm never hiring another Michael. So it's michael@jobelephant.com. And you can learn more about us at our website, of course, or follow me on LinkedIn.
Great. Sarah?
Wonderful. You can learn more about us at shaker.com. You can also please connect with me out on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people and learning more. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And Eric?
All right. Yeah, our website is appcast.io, and my email address is my first dot last name, so eric.hallwell@appcast.io, and I'll obviously LinkedIn would be a great place to connect to.
So thanks to all of you, and thanks to you in the audience for joining us today. I hope you learned as much as I did about the importance of recruitment marketing and its current state of the art. Come on back for our next show. We do these every single month, so keep an eye on social media. We'll let you know the topic and the time just as soon as we can. Thanks very much for being here. Great fun. I really enjoyed
Awesome.
it.
That was good.
Excellent. It was really interesting.
Yeah, and we got some good comments from the audience, so people were paying attention. It's not often we get a question, so that's a kudo to you all.
Nice.
Yeah. So okay. Well, thanks again, and I'll look forward to seeing you around the TA countryside one of these days.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah,
It was
very
nice
good.
to meet
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.